Hey everybody, this is Laravel DFW for September 2015, and we have a bunch of cool people here. Nathan, can you show us the awesome people? This is the part where you scream and like go, woo! Okay, let's try that again. So this is Laravel DFW for September 2016, and here's all of our great people. All right, cool. So just a couple of things before we get started. We have the great Stuart Yamartino with us today. He's going to be giving us a great presentation. And we're here still at Access. Access has been gracious, as they always are. So thank you to them. So really quick, let me do a couple of things. Obviously, this is Laravel DFW. My name's Tanner Hearn. I'm the organizer. Nathan and Seth also co-organized. They're great as well. So give a shout out to them. Give them some claps. Some very quiet, tiny golf claps. Access is so gracious. They open their space to us every month. We're so happy to have them as friends. Can we call you friends? All right, cool. So thank you, Access. If you don't already know, if you're not already in there, join our Slack. Just go to laraveldfw.com/Slack, and you can join in. There's tons of great conversation to have there, and you can talk with everybody in the area, and some people not in the area, like Stuart, who join in and can give you advice if you're having trouble with some specific code, or if you just need help. I mean, even finding jobs. I know that we work with Access and other great companies in the area that are always looking for talented engineers. So they would love to hear from you. So just get in there, and you might be able to help somebody too. You never know where your skill level might be at a level where you can reach out and help somebody. You can also reach out on Twitter at Laravel DFW. So just hit up Laravel DFW, and we can answer any questions you have. Also today, if you have any questions, including if you're here at Access, if you have a question for Stuart, just tweet it at Laravel DFW. He's going to be talking about package development. If that gives you some juices flowing for questions you might have, just tweet at Laravel DFW. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Stuart. Stuart, I've known you for I don't know, a year or two or three even now,
Yeah, I think it might be like almost 3 years.
for sure. So
I've
why
yet to
don't,
meet in person.
I'm sorry?
We've yet to meet in person.
That's true. That is also very true. So um, why don't you give us an intro to yourself, and I guess we can go ahead and get started, man.
Cool. So as Tanner said, my name is Stuart Yamartino. I am located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I am a software engineer at a company here called Docwa. Docwa, like OpenTable, is a reservation platform for boaters to make reservations and pay for the reservations at marinas. So like you would at OpenTable for at a restaurant, you can make reservations on Docwa for marina dock spaces and moorings for your boat. And I'm a full stack developer at Docwa. I do most of our front-end web development, as well as we're on Ruby on Rails, and I do our portion of our Rails development. So it's a bit of my background, but yeah. So today I'm going to be talking about Laravel package development, and if you've made a package for Laravel before, this might not be super in-depth, but I'm doing this talk in hopes that it can kind of bring everyone up to a place where everyone would feel comfortable making and publishing their own open sourced package for Laravel, as simple as it may be. So this isn't going to be, new techniques on package development or anything. This is going to be the basics of creating and publishing a package with Laravel. So I guess I'll go right into it. I'm going to share my screen. Um, oh, there we go. And share.
You got it.
You got it? All right, cool. So let me pull up this keynote and press play. Can you guys see this okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, cool. It just took over both my screens, so I couldn't see if that was working. So, as I said, this is talk's called Welcome to Package Development. It's going to be an intro to package development for Laravel. As I said before, my name is Stuart Yamartino. You can reach me. You can find out more about me at stuyam.com, at Twitter, GitHub, and Packagist at stuyam. This is me and my two lovely children. I'm totally joking. I actually really like this photo because it's like the stock image for Keynote, so I thought I would just leave it. But this is actually me.
What that was. Oh.
And I don't have any kids, but I'm Stu Yam everywhere, so if you can follow me on Twitter or GitHub or whatever. Oh, I forgot I left that in there. Whatever. So what is this going to be about? First, I'm going to kind of talk about the differences between a vanilla PHP package versus a Laravel package, and kind of what those differences entail, as well as and kind of go into service provider in Laravel. And then we're going to take a quick look at, I've built 2 packages recently for Laravel, and I'm going to show you kind of the really basics of how I made and published that package. So that'll just go through the steps of that, as well as kind of show you guys what those packages are for fun. So you are going to install a package in your Laravel project, and sometimes you're using a Laravel package, and sometimes you're just using a general PHP package. And it kind of, at least for me, it took a while. Is like, okay, so why is it normal packages? I just include them, and then Laravel packages, I have this providers thing, and then like include them through their namespace. So basically the difference here is for the vanilla PHP packages, we are essentially just, when you install that through Composer, that is just including the namespace of that package and auto-loading it into your project for you to use anywhere. Where on a Laravel package, there's usually functionality, being a Laravel package, that is specific to Laravel, whether that be extending or adding on to Laravel, and essentially use these providers to essentially boot into the Laravel application container. So, yeah, as I said before, essentially one of the main differences between a vanilla PHP package and what makes a Laravel package is usually your service provider. Again, there are other things like facades and stuff that can be booted in, but generally speaking, if you're building a Laravel package, you're going to have a service provider which boots that package into your application container. And this is a little joust for my boss because he hates Comcast. So here, I'm sure many of you have seen service providers before. When you create a service provider, notice one main thing, or a few main things. First being that you have to use the Illuminate support service provider, and your service provider will extend the service provider in there, and that is a protocol. And so you essentially conform to those two with boot and register methods. The register method is run as the application is booting up. So when you write things in the register method, those are essentially going to be things that you are binding binding them into like the app, variable like type thing. So if you're creating if Actually, I don't have a good example off my head. Um, Basically, a register is the main thing there is that you cannot use any Laravel services inside of register because it could be booting before one of those services, or registering before one of those other services has registered yet, so you can't access it yet. And that's essentially the purpose of the boot method. And the boot method is called after the application is finished booting. So there you have access to all of the services in Laravel, and so here, say you want to essentially create a custom validator or blade directive, you do it there because those in boot you have access to validator and to blade to extend those where you wouldn't necessarily in register. So in a Laravel application, you have your config/app.php page, and essentially this is you've probably all seen this before, and I guess this is kind of just a demonstration of how I think of it in my mind. So it'll essentially just go through and register each of these service providers, and it'll register them in order. So technically, this isn't exactly how it works because there is you can actually defer each service provider. But essentially, this is, in my mind, how I think about it. It goes through, registers each one, and then it goes through and boots each one as well. All right, so I'm going to show an example here of packages that I built recently for Laravel. So here I've built two validators. One of them is a phone validator, and the other one is a kickbox validator. So in Laravel, you have these concepts of validators that you could use in your form requests or your just in a plain old validator. And they have lots of different ones you can choose from, but they don't have a phone. And because the reason they do that is because the phone is really hard to validate because using a regular expression on a phone number isn't necessarily going to be perfect. A lot of times you have to specify which country they're in, and there's other complicated reasons why it's not exactly maybe perfect. So this phone validator actually uses the Twilio phone lookup service, which is actually free. And so I could go in here and I could do 1, 2, 3, 5, 5, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Can you boost your screen size a little bit, or just
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on a big monitor here.
Nice. Does that help everybody? You got about 7 nods out of 11. So
Okay, all right. Let's go a little bigger. Okay, so when I use a phone number that's invalid, obviously I get this validation error from the validator, and so the thing with this Twilio phone lookup is that it actually looks at registered phone numbers and not necessarily something conforming to a phone number structure, which is actually nice because then I can, it doesn't matter if someone inputs their information like this or like this, like +1, whatever. It handles all the hard parts of validating phone numbers, and then it actually does a lookup essentially on valid phone numbers that are actually registered. So then if I do, giving out my phone number here, if anyone wants to call me later, essentially, so if I give my phone number and try it, that works, and because my phone is an actual registered phone number. So, and this is a free service. So if you're ever using a form input for a phone number, I would highly recommend using this package for Laravel, obviously, but this Twilio phone lookup in general, because it makes stuff like this super easy. And then I have this other one, which is Laravel Kickbox Validator. And Kickbox is actually a paid service, so it isn't free. But for example, in Laravel, there is an email validator. And what that email validator does is just checks that the email entered conforms to a certain regular expression, which is great. But what Kickbox does is it actually checks deliverability of those emails. So you could essentially use this Kickbox validator to check if an email is an actual email address and not just an email address that looks like an email address or conforms to like the text@text.com type thing. So I can give you an example here. So if I do my like work email, Docker.com. So if I do like say Stuart1@Docker.com, if I normally run that through the regular Laravel validator, this would totally work because that looks like an email address. But when you run it through Kickbox, it blows up because it's not that's not a real email address that Dockwell owns. But if I use my real email address, I can check the deliverability on that and tell you that that's a real email address. So for example, at Dockwell, we actually use this instead of sending a validation email to essentially like have you click and then like validate that that email address is real. We just use Kickbox so that we don't have to go through the trouble of sending an email and say click this, so that we can validate that that's a real email address type thing. So that's one little plug for those two packages. But I guess let me walk through the creation of the Laravel phone provider. Just kind of a, and this is going to be like pretty high level, like quick breeze through this. I'm not going to go into too much of the details of this. So when I go to create a package, actually, so let me start off by saying I have these little like boxes in the corners that say package or project, and because when you're developing a package, you obviously kind of have to be using create a Laravel project that you can be testing the package in. So I kind of specify there where this code is happening in the package or the project. So here I have a package, essentially just an empty directory, and then I run a composer in it, and that'll, when you run composer in it through the command line, that will create like a prompt that will essentially have you fill out all this information. The two things you have to keep in mind is the really important one is that you need to install Illuminate support from Laravel. And the reason you need that is your service provider needs to extend, your service provider needs to extend the service provider in the Illuminate support. So we have to require that into the package. And then I also here have just a basic PSR4 auto-loading on the source directory inside of that package, which will auto-load all of my files inside source into this main composer, they're like root of the package, so that when this package is installed in a project, then the project has access to the files that are needing to be run. And then here you see it in the project, in the like fresh Laravel project, I can run the PHP artisan make provider command and give it a name, and that will spin up a service provider. And then I essentially want to copy that service provider and drop it into the package. Of course, you can like write your own, and it's like a couple lines with a couple methods, But it's just easier to, if you use it with the artisan command in the project and copy it over, at least I've found in my experience. So this is the actual service provider in the phone validator package. And so here I left out the register part at the bottom because I actually didn't use that. But here in the boot, I'm essentially, and in boot, I should note, and in the service provider in general, you have access to the application. So through this app validator, So in boot here, I'm just extending the validator in the application, giving it a name of phone, which is the key that we can later use to validate things. And then as you can see up top on line 6, I'm pulling in the Twilio PHP package. And down inside that validator, I am running the value that is put through the validator against the Twilio package. If that doesn't blow up, then I return true. And then if there's an exception thrown, I return false. And in this example with validators that you extend, you're just going to be returning true and false, and that'll be essentially if the validator passed or it did not, and then Laravel handles the rest. And you can see in the closure there, the function, I have access to the attribute, the value that's being passed in, and the parameters, as well as the validator itself. So here back in the Laravel project, I want to now test the small package that I just created. And so I go into my composer file, and I can, as you see down at the bottom, do a require of the package name that I just created in the package. And now you can see above that I have essentially the ability to define packages that are on my local box. And the reason you have to do this is because by default, Composer looks to Packagist to provide the package. So here I define repositories, and I give it a type of VCS, which is version control system, and is obviously being committed with Git. And then I give it a URL, and that's essentially the path to the Composer file in the root of my package that I wish to pull in to my Laravel project. And the nice thing about this is when I'm done with my package and I decide to publish it to Packagist, I can actually just remove that repository's JSON block, and Composer will essentially then just go to Packagist, seeing that there's no local versions anymore, and install it from there. So what's nice is it works both ways, and when I remove the repositories block, it will pull it in from Packagist. So here we head back to the Laravel project. And so this project that I just pulled the package into, this is obviously the package has been created, and this is just an example of how I am using this specific one. I created a form request, and so I created a phone form request, and this is what's generated when I do an artisan make for a request, a form request. And towards the bottom you see those rules, and I have an array where I have phone and then the validations for phone. And so phone is obviously the attribute or the name of the input box in my HTML. And so then I essentially have a pipe separated list of all of the rules I wish to run on that. So I can just do required, I require that it's there, and then pipe to phone, and then I essentially, with the package I'm pulling in, it's extending the Laravel validator, adding the phone to the application as a validator. Then I can just use it here just like this, and that'll all work. One interesting thing to note for these requests, and if you're looking to make a validator, if you don't use required there, and I just did phone and then phone, it will validate that the phone is correct if there's a value, but if there's no value, then it'll just skip it. So that's kind of a nice thing that Laravel does automatically, so I didn't have to figure out how that would work in my validator. It works that way by default. You can actually you can actually extend the validator in such a way that also requires its existence, but by default, it it leaves it open, so it leaves it up to the person who's using it to make sure it's either required or whatnot. But and then here at the top, I have essentially the very tiny controller method that runs that form request. And here you can see I'm using dependency injection to include that phone form request. And that phone form request, if you guys have used these before, you know will run automatically, and if there are any errors, it'll actually redirect back to the previous page with the old input as well as errors. So you can see below in the HTML block in that form, that input, the part that's highlighted, I have the value of it, and then I use the blade to like return essentially the old phone, and that's what that's doing. Is the old function is getting the phone that is sent back if there is a failed validation. And then the line below that, there are errors, and I can get the first one for the phone, and that will essentially give me errors like as the one I created before, like this phone number is not a valid phone number type thing. And another thing to note about that is that errors is always instantiated in every view, so you don't have to check the existence of errors before using it. You can just use it just like that, and it won't blow up if there's no errors. Okay, so now we did the hard part, creating the package. We created the composer file, pulled in our service provider, created a service provider. Inside the boot of the service provider, we extended the validator, pulled in Twilio, validate that phone number, and return true or false based on that. So now that's all done, but we have one last step, and that's to put it on Packagist. And so this is really the easy part, because Packagist makes it super easy. So I go to packagist.com, click create new package, and you can copy in the repository URL. So for this example, I'm using GitHub, and I have that push there, and then I can essentially just click go, and that will completely set everything up for me. It pulls all the information from Composer. Here, as you can see, it pulls in the requires, the required dev, the information about it, as well as tags, and also your README as well, if there's a README in your repository. So that's dead simple. You can obviously go in here and edit it and change things if you want, but for that part, it's super easy. And the very last part is I can go into that package on GitHub, and I can click into settings on that repository, webhooks and services, and then I can set up a service for Packagist. And now what that will do is every time I update my package and push it to GitHub, it'll also update the package on Packagist. So for example, a couple days ago, as you can see on the middle right here, there's two different versions. I have Dev Master, and then I have 1.0.0. A few days ago, I went into my repository and just added the tag 1.0.0, and then as soon as I went back to Packagist, it was already there. So as a webhook to Packagist, that sets all that up for you.
So quick question.
Yeah.
So you use tags then to do the versioning?
Yes. Yep. Yeah. So you do use tags to do the versioning. which you can either do through the GitHub interface or obviously through Git. That took a little while to actually figure out. I wasn't super clear on that, but yeah, you do use tags to do versioning.
Cool.
All right, and basically after that, then you have a package on Packagist that anyone can, for example, go in their composer or do composer install studiem/laravel phone validator, and that will require that into your project. And so a couple of things. One, hopefully that seemed easy to you. And so actually, let me step back for a second. If you want to learn more about package development, there's a really good Laracast on it called Russian doll caching in Laravel. It's kind of deceiving because it's about Russian doll caching, but Jeffrey goes over a lot about package development in it. But besides that, I kind of wanted this to be super easy and maybe seem like hopefully obvious to a lot of you, because I would love to kind of challenge all of you guys to, in, I don't know, next week or two, find something in your Laravel projects that you either like reuse a lot or you think would be useful to other people, and try to make a really simple package out of it and put it on Packagist. The process I just went through is really simple, and I would love if more people kind of felt that it was a lot easier to deploy packages, because the first time I created a package, I was like, oh wow, it's this big scary thing. But then once I did it for the first time, I was like, oh, that was easy. I should just like all the code that I write should just go up on packages for everyone else to use. So I'm kind of hoping that it didn't seem too difficult for you, and hopefully seemed easy. And because I guess the more packages we have for Laravel or PHP in general, the better it is for everyone else, for Laravel, the Laravel community. So I kind of challenge all you guys to maybe try making your own package in the next couple weeks and see what happens. Reach out to me if you do. I'd love to see what you guys create. And yeah, that's all for now.
Cool. Thank you, Stuart. Can we give him a round of applause? Can you hear the applause?
I can.
Okay, cool. I just wanted to make sure because that would be disheartening
Yeah,
otherwise.
no, it was great. Thank you.
Um,
Can't get my screen up. Oh, it's off. There we go.
cool. So, thank you, Stuart, again. I found that interesting. So we'll do some questions.
Yeah.
And then I actually have a couple of questions for you guys and kind of get into a little bit of a conversation.
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah, I love that.
you have a question? Dave has a big question. He's running up here. Here you go, Dave. Here you go, Dave. Just kidding. No, yeah, it might be good. Can I use the that other mic too? Will that just automatically go through? Perfect. Um, 1 second here. Intermission. Check 1 2 2 2. Check 1 2. Okay, so that should be good. Can you hear me, Stuart?
Uh, Kind of. You sound like an alien.
It's okay. I kind
All
of
right.
am an alien. Do you mind like going with this and maybe your computer with the video just so whoever's talking can actually see that? Cool. Can you hear me, Stuart?
Yeah. It's just a little weird on that microphone, I guess.
That's a disembodied voice that we can't see yet.
I like it.
This actually works out because I do have a question, so maybe I can lead off here. Cool. Alright, so if you can just introduce yourself and then...
Maybe there's feedback between the two. Maybe if like Tanner, you could turn yours off while
Sure.
he's it's just
Alright, Stuart, I guess my question is, going through, you covered it pretty comprehensively, and I love your validators that you made there, by the way. I'm actually going to be using those in a project, so thank you for making those.
awesome. Thanks.
One thing that
I'm having trouble wrapping my mind around is the vendor publish command for a package. Where does that go? Or where do you put that? So, whenever somebody installs my package, they need to, one of the requirements is they do vendor publish, this, whatever it is. And it takes templates that are in, in my, in my folder, the vendor directory, and moves it to where it needs to go into Laravel. I don't know how to do that.
Vendor publish, is that with Composer?
Yeah, that's an artisan command. So I mean, you see
Oh,
packages where they do like artisan vendor publish, and then you say the name of the vendor. I'm trying to think of a popular package that does that. There's a few, but they're kind of escaping me right now. But there's a thing on Laravel package development where you can publish all that stuff, and I don't quite understand it.
um, yes. So I actually haven't used that before, but there was a resource I saw recently for it, and let me see if I can find it real quick. Um, so, so what vendor publish does, from my understanding of it, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is it takes um, files that are in your package and moves them into the Laravel package. So, or into your Laravel project. So say, for example, I make a package that um, is an view, and it's just an image with a smiley face in it. I could have you pull that package in and then do vendor publish and essentially have the ability to publish, which essentially move that view from my package into your project under resources, views, that file. So it essentially allows you to create files that are going to be pulled in to the actual outside of the vendor directory in your Laravel project and into actual parts of your Laravel project. And so, for example, like you can actually specify different things. So, like I could do PHP artisan vendor publish dash dash views, and that'll only publish the publishable views that I've like put up. And I could do dash dash config, or a lot, yeah, a lot. So a lot of people use it for configurations, right? So I could do a vendor publish for configuration, and that'll take a configuration file that I have inside my package and move it into your configuration file inside of your Laravel project, inside the config directory inside your Laravel project. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Cool.
Anybody else have a question? Any questions? Hand or anything? No questions? Has anybody, by a show of hands, who uses packages in your apps? Cool. Has anybody been interested in developing a package? Cool. Same people. Well, what are your most favorite, like the ones you install every time, packages? Like you're doing a first over install. Okay. Yeah. So you use payment gateway packages. Anyone in particular, or OmniPay? Okay. Cool. Cool. So what kind of packages do you do you enter in the Mac every time?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Lately, most of the work I've been doing over the last few months has involved a lot of API clients, and so a lot of the packages I've been pulling in is the different social media API packages that are available, and that one package that I've started working on myself is a package that allows, I don't know if any of you are aware of a package, an app called Conify, but it allows you to pull in Microsoft Exchange calendar. It's a unified API that allows you to use any of those calendars within your inside. That's a package I've been building myself. And the question that you had about the publishers, I actually got on my screen here if you want to look at it. This is just an example of how you would set that up in your package. You do it in your boot method, and you just call this publishers, and then you pass an array of where you've stored what you want to share, and then where you want it to go.
Right.
You do that within your boot method, and then when whoever installs your package runs vendor publish, then it will publish those files. So just an example.
Right, yeah, so you register the publisher files inside the boot method, right?
I know one package I use on almost every Laravel install is that IDE helper for PHP Stone. They else use that. Pretty much guaranteed if you're using PHP Stone, you're probably installing that package at some point. I've used it before, but I kind of ran into issues where I think I just need to check my configuration on it. Because it does help, but there's also a lot of methods that put magic methods and other stuff that it can't traverse. It doesn't grab all of it. It grabs most of it, though. But you're right. It doesn't grab everything. Yeah. Well, so any other questions about packages? Okay, so then just for a minute, does anybody have any questions they had this week working with Laravel? How many people work with Laravel, work with it this week at work?
Nice.
Did y'all lower your hand, or do you work at it not at work? It doesn't matter. I just was wondering if you, do you use it at work, or do you use it on the side? Okay, cool. Does anybody build stuff on the side? Cool. Very nice. That's kind of the dilemma for all of us, is just like constantly going and going and going. So, I don't know, any questions, anything that's worth discussing while we're here? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I just started a new job here on 5.1 and wanted to know experience with 5.2 and with 5.3, what the advantage was to moving on to those.
Sorry, I didn't fully hear the question.
So for from 5.2 to 5.3, 5.1, Sure. So your question is, what are some good things to look forward to in 5.3? Well, so with 5.2, I think we gain form requests. Is that right, Stuart? I can't look on my computer right now.
Form requests were in 5.
So with 5.2, though, I think it was a lot of cleanup. 5.3 is like a crazy upgrade. It's like a major version, but it's just a point version. It includes things like what is there's an OAuth2 component. So for that, just added called Passport, which basically automates OAuth integration. So it's a snap. I mean, I think on stage Taylor live programmed an OAuth integration in like a minute, or like a couple of minutes. So it's pretty intense in that way. There's also, does anybody want to help me out? There's like 5 key things. Well, one of the things that my favorite thing in 5.2 was built-in throttling, although you can get it in packages and built-in right there in the end of that file, you can put that in there. The thing I like about 5.3 the most so far, not only with all the extra packages that we were just talking about social and those other ones, but the way they redid the routes file makes a lot more sense to me. So instead of like a routes.php, you have a routes folder, and within the routes folder you have web.php, you have API.php, and console.php. so
Definitely.
anything inside of the web automatically has the session and all that middleware that you need in order to run a website. But not you put all of that's in the API PHP, so that makes a little bit more sense. So just to kind of run through it for those that haven't seen 5.3, it is a pretty major upgrade, and it I think it went out right upon you, which was 2 weeks ago, or 3, yeah. But actually, I'm trying to think because I was watching a video about some of the release, but it wasn't actually out yet. It might have been last week. So I'll just share my screen for those watching at home. So first thing is notifications. This is actually a huge one. It basically creates a simple expressive API for sending notifications across a variety of delivery channels. And so this is pretty cool right here. They're just saying user notify. So it's going to throw that notification invoice paid in there, and you can tell it to go via email, via text message, via Slack, via Twitter, via anything. It'll send to all of those.
Yeah, and I know on that point, there's actually been like I know at least like 20 other. There's like a whole group now about people making notification adapters. So like there's all different types of notifications now that you can make, and people are making more. I think Taylor, for example, used one that like a notification that would actually use an API to send a letter in the mail. So people are actually making a lot of different notification adapters for different types of notifications, whether that be snail mail or email or SMS or type stuff.
Yeah, there's a ton of stuff, and there's several services now that allow you to send letters. So it's pretty crazy. You can send printed postcards. You can even send handwritten letters, just because their service it's letters, and you basically just send them. Here's the message, and how you write it. So that's a big deal because it allows you to do a ton with just notifications. The event broadcasting has been overhauled, so now it's even easier. It's called Laravel Echo. That's the name of the event broadcasting. And that allows you to use Pushbear and Socket.io like right out of the box and have it broadcast to channels. So if you're trying to do something in real time, it's going to push to the browser and update it. Like a chat thing or something like that. Then that would be something you can use. Passport, which we just talked about, as an OAuth 2 server, and it is just fast. It's crazy. It uses Vue for its default components. So if you're familiar with Vue.js, then you can just throw these components on the page, and it'll just do everything right there. It works just kind of like GitHub does, where you can add auth codes, you can remove them, you can generate them on the fly, you can have your API generate them, all sorts of stuff. And these Vue components give you a whole web interface to manage all of that.
That looks slick too. Um, there's search called Laravel Scout. It's a huge upgrade. So
Yep.
Laravel Scout basically allows your eloquent models to be searchable, and you can use services attached to Scout, like Algolia. There's a driver. I just saw that someone had written a driver for Elasticsearch.
Yeah, I was wondering if there was going to be one of those.
Yeah, so that one's not shipped with Scout, but it came out within days
Yeah.
of Scout being announced. So it's it's there, and there's a bunch of other stuff, but I won't really go into it. But you can check it out, Laravel.com, if you want to look into the details of all of those. There's 5.3 release notes as well as 5.2 release notes. Let's just briefly go through there because you asked. Auth drivers, scaffolding for auth, which would do a bunch of HTML. Um, implicit model binding is big. Middleware groups. I know that I use middleware groups and they're super handy. Rate limiting is easier. Array validation, Bale validation. Um, So pretty big, but 5.3 is pretty major. So there's a lot of upgrades with that. So let's turn off the crazy mirror thing there. Okay, so any other questions just about Laravel? Is anyone just getting started with Laravel? Yeah. What is your name, sir? Perry? Cool. How long have you been using it? You just learned about it?
Yeah.
Very cool. Have you thrown anything in a text editor or messed around with it very much, or you just kind of investigating it?
Reading up on it, just trying to learn about it.
Cool. Very cool. Well, thanks for coming out. Well, with that, Stuart, do you have any closing remarks for us?
Um, do you guys have pizza there?
We do have pizza here.
Think you can send that up to Boston?
Say what? Say what?
Can you send this some up to Boston?
Um, no, we can't.
All
But
right.
you got some pizza up there.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess I'll just say thanks, obviously, all you guys for coming out and listening. Let me know if you have any questions about package development or anything Laravel related. I'm in the Slack group all the time, the Laravel DFW Slack group, and love to talk with you guys. And yeah, I challenge all you guys to make a package. So let me know if you do.
Thanks, Stuart. So again, you can find him on Slack. It's at Stuart, and then on Twitter at StuYam. And Stuart, thanks for hanging out with us today.
I heard something about flags.
I, I don't. Yeah, I think you have a lot of fun with flags.
This is the Ohio flag, which is where I went to school, and then these are signal flags, which say my name.
That's awesome.
I do like flags, though.
Well, yeah, thanks for coming out, Stuart. So again, check us out online, laraveldfw.com, at laraveldfw on Twitter, and if you want to hang out, just get on Slack and we can hang out. So thank you guys, and peace out.